So welcome to our Divine Truth followers interview series. So here we invite people who listen to Divine Truth and who are open to share a bit about their life and how they discover Divine Truth and also their experience with the teachings. So today we have a guest, David Walsh. Welcome. Hi. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's lovely. We are very excited to have you because you are a bit of a special guest in the sense that you are not only a Divine Truth followers, but you are also a teacher. Even maybe you have not taught a lot yet.
Not yet, no.
But you embody this teaching into your soul. So your life is a teaching, and we'll explain a bit more why I say that. But it's a bit different than the normal Divine Truth followers. And why I say that is because David Walsh is your current name, and so you are claiming that your soul is as the name now, but your soul is the same soul than a centurion soldier, a Roman Centurion called Cornelius in the 1st century, and that you are one of 14 people or 7 souls who has returned to Earth, who have reincarnated, if we can say so, to Earth, for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Yes, and so we know you as David Walsh in this life, but obviously some people call you Cornelius and Corny.
Yeah.
I'm calling you Corny often. So that's quite an extraordinary claim, and very unusual.
Yes, of course, yeah.
And so I like to ask you some question about your life. Not only your life now, this life, but your life in the 1st century as well, under the name Cornelius, so your original name, basically. And also all the time you spend when you passed in the spirit world, which is obviously a very long time.
Yeah.
So probably there is a lot there. And then to end up a bit asking more about really the reincarnation thing. So I mean, or your memory and everything about reincarnation, why you are here again, and all these things, to understand a bit better. So my objective is that people can understand a bit better what it is about, what is your life, and it's a bit complicated, at least intellectually, that we can a bit grasp, because
it is for me as well. So
yeah. Okay. So we have organized this interview or question in these 4 topics. So really your life now, your life in the 1st century, then your life in the spirit world, and then the reincarnation questions.
Okay.
All right for you?
Yeah.
So just before we start, I'd like to tell the viewers that there might be some words or vocabulary that they don't understand, or that is new. And a good way, if you want to understand better, you could go on the Divine Truth channel homepage on YouTube, and you can do a research on the words, and you will come up with a lot of video where you can get a better understanding of what is shared. But another way, you can always ask questions under the video about something you don't understand as well. So your current life now, David Walsh.
Yeah.
Can you share a bit about your date of birth, where you were born, what is your place of living also right now, and what is your profession?
Yeah, I'll try and put it into a nutshell really quick. Born 25th of August in 1969. That was in Melbourne, which is in Victoria, in Australia, state of Victoria. Just trying to think what else you asked there.
So you
just grew up
professions?
there. Yeah, I grew up there pretty much till I was about in the same house, same parents, same family, like no one split up or anything, so it's pretty stable, I suppose, if you want to call it that. Same schools, never changed schools from primary school, high school, that was it, and then started doing a profession as carpenter, did an apprenticeship doing that, and then moved around a little bit in those years. Wanted to go and find new experiences in building as well. I went around Australia a few times, checked things out, and didn't know where I wanted to live, but ended up in Western Australia for a little while.
Okay.
And I really liked it over there. It's a different experience work-wise, and then went back to Victoria when I was about 25 or something like that. And then came with a girlfriend. We both lived there for about 5 years and went back to Western Australia, northern Western Australia, for a different experience again.
Mm-hmm.
And then we split up and I went to Europe and checked things out over there. Then where to go to for next? Went back to Western Australia again, then up to Queensland where I am now.
You have been moving quite a lot.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Adventurer.
Yeah.
Kind of adventurer.
Yeah, just like to see things and have new experiences, I guess, and it's been really good doing all that. It broadens your understanding of things, I guess. Yeah.
And so, what is your place of living right now?
In Queensland, Wilkesdale, Queensland. South Eastern Queensland,
okay,
which is the northern eastern state of Victoria.
Okay.
Australia.
Australia.
Yeah.
You are still a carpenter. That's your profession.
Yeah, I've always liked building ever since a kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lovely. What was your childhood family environment like?
Pretty much. Everybody says this, I suppose. I don't know. It's just pretty normal, but it's yeah, mum and dad, they were always together, as in they never split up or anything like that, which a lot of families seem to these days. That was both of them there the whole time. Remember them as kids, like, you remember seeing love in their relationship, you sort of, I think that slowly sort of wears away a little bit in some time. They just become used to each other. Had a brother and sister, older brother, 11 months older, younger sister, a year and a bit younger, so we were pretty jammed in quite quickly. We all got along pretty good. My brother and my sister didn't get along as much. I think they just, now I can see that, they're just reflecting mum and dad's emotions that they weren't feeling. Right. Like mum and dad, I never saw them fight. There was never fighting, so, but there's always feelings there, so my brother was acting it out on my sister, really. Yeah, I was the middle child. Yeah, it's pretty much just your typical stock standard family, I guess. Yeah, with their own issues and everything.
What was your relationship with your parents? How did that go?
Yeah, probably felt more closer to dad in some ways, just a little bit more, because mum was a little bit more emotionally sort of shut down, I suppose, or quiet, reserved, which is what I'm like now these days, unfortunately. And I was never really family oriented though. I was never really one that wanted to hang around families and stuff like that. Like my brother's more like that, and my sister's a bit more like that. But my brother used to call me the black sheep of the family that didn't really seem to belong to the family. But I liked them all and everything. Didn't need to hang around, and I liked to be with my friends, I guess. And
Can you share a little bit more about your life chronologically? You know, in time, like. How did that go at school? How you, what kind of kid at school and this year's at school you were?
Yeah, I was terrified at school. From day one, didn't want to go, like crying my eyes out, and then I slowly sort of got used to it, I suppose, being around other kids and stuff, and just had friends. I always had friends at school. I was always afraid. Primary school was quite good because it's like people were nicer until like the later years of primary school, where friends were starting to fight with each other, and I got real disillusioned about it and didn't understand why people were starting to be nasty to each other, and ended up running away from school and from home. I just got really upset about life, as in just felt like there was no love. Felt like it wasn't so much at home, it was just like at school and friends and people. I thought, why is everything changing to violence, sort of feels like. Didn't like it and ran away and eventually went home.
Were you a very sensitive child?
Yeah. I think most kids are at some stage until they shut it down. But yeah, just always afraid of getting into a fight. Like that was even like through high school. I was terrified of getting into it because I found high school a bit more rough, a bit more like less rules in some way, a bit more aggression. Yeah, there's always potentials of fights happening all the time, and in a school of 1,000 people, there's always something happening. yeah, but never got into a fight, which I was proud of when I left school. That was my greatest achievement, which is quite silly, but that's just how I felt. Yeah. I never wanted to be noticed, I suppose. Tried to just stay under the radar. Even if I was good at something, I'd just downplay it as well. Like I was good at athletics and stuff, and I'd just try, and when we go to school meets, I'd try and just slow down when I was winning the races and stuff like that. 100 metre sprint, I'd just slow down so I could get at least a ribbon.
Oh, really?
I didn't want to have to go and progress to the next one, which is a state champions, and thought I don't want to go and do that. Just want to stay quiet. I can run, who cares? I know I can do it. And like pictures, had a picture in a National Art Gallery that I drew of myself, and when I got that back, I just ripped it up because I didn't like it and didn't want to be, just didn't want to be noticed, I suppose. Just want to stay quiet and not draw attention. It's always been that way.
Did you think it was your character?
I guess so, yeah. You don't really think about it then. You just do what you're feeling, I suppose, and react to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you went out of high school, of school, you went to study directly after school?
You mean during school?
What happened, after primary school, you have secondary school?
Yeah,
and then you went into study carpentry directly, or how does that happen?
I knew what I wanted to do, so and I thought there's no point in me sticking around after year 11 because it's just more academics after that and getting certificates and all sorts of stuff that people want to get into uni. I thought I don't want to go there in college and stuff, so I just got an apprenticeship in building.
And how was this year's? Oh, it was 1 year. How many years is apprenticeship?
4 years.
4 years?
Yeah, it's carpentry and joinery, so it sort of like does two trades at once.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how was it this year, where you were studying your carpentry? How was it for you, these 4 years?
Oh, it was quite good, yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah.
You enjoyed it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, because I suppose it's what I was passionate about, so if I was doing it for real now, it was good. I love the learning though too, just learning new things, and it was really good going to trade school. You have to go and do some schooling part of it, then back to work, schooling, back to work. It was good going to the schooling part because you learn what other people were doing too, because you're not just learning, they're learning from other people that got different skills but just doing the same job, so it was a great all-round experience, yeah.
And the environment was a good environment
to learn? Yeah, I was actually
learn?
lucky where I was working. It was hard to get an apprenticeship back then, because I think it wasn't economically good. It was a tough time, so I was actually lucky to get an apprenticeship, but when I did, it was in a big building in Melbourne, in the city, and it was a weird it was a paper place that does newspapers. What do you do carpentry there? And it was just a lot of maintenance carpentry, and I didn't really enjoy that as much as I wanted to go and build houses. So that's why I left eventually. But it was a good starting point though too, because it was a really encouraging environment. A lot of the people there were quite supportive and encouraging of you, rather than, I was a bit afraid to go into the building industry because it felt very mean, or didn't feel like there was any rules to violence there. I was always worried about violence. Yeah, and just felt, so the place I went to was a quite nice place, and which gave me a lot of confidence to keep going, sort of thing, with things. And yeah,
awesome. That was an awesome time. Feels like, yeah. Well, you talk a little bit about you were never a family person. How was it about your family? Did you build up a family? Do you have children? Do you have a wife? Do you have a...
No, I've had girlfriends pretty much from 15 onwards till last 8 years ago, pretty much. It's constant relationships, usually long-term relationships too.
Oh, hey.
From 2 years to 7 years sort of thing. Somewhere in that range they mostly averaged out at. Yeah.
You never decided to marry or to get married?
I just never found anybody I had a heart feeling for that I want to spend the rest of my life with, let alone have a child with too. Yeah, so I wouldn't have a child with someone and didn't feel I could share our love with that child and grow in that way. Yeah, you
had always this feeling, like even if a woman, one of your girlfriend wants to have a child or marry, you had always this feeling like there must be love first.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah.
It's
just there wasn't one strong enough, and obviously because none of them was my soulmate. I do have a child though from first century.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
We'll come on that.
Yeah, often I don't think about that, but I've just thought at times emotional things will come up, and I can feel her, and it feels wrong to not acknowledge her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we come back on when we talk.
Yeah.
Then I didn't know about that. That's really interesting. So are there you love your profession of carpenter, and
Yeah,
I think
I love it.
are there things that you don't like about your profession, your main passion?
Probably the culture in the building industry is about the only thing I think. Yeah, it's a pity it's such a male-dominated sort of industry that men trying to be what they think men are and doing just, I don't know, silly things and treating each other not very nice and stuff like that. And yeah, which is a pity because it goes from generation to generation. It's a little bit better these days because of health and safety. They don't do as many dangerous things to each other. But yeah, the culture's still there, which is not good sort of thing. And it also excludes women a lot by that culture being around as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And there's lots of women who I'd sure enjoy carpentry as well too.
How do you deal with that then? If you don't enjoy so much the culture there, how do you deal with that when you
just don't be involved in it really? Yeah. Just don't partake in it or just don't encourage it and yeah.
Okay. Any idea about your other passions and desires beside carpentry?
Yeah, there's passion for healing. Yeah. I've always been quite curious about it. When I was investigating just before I found out about my identity, I was looking at that sort of stuff and looking at different healing modalities, and I just, after looking and searching and trying out and experiencing them, I just thought, I'd come to the conclusion that there's what I'm looking for just isn't on Earth at the moment. So, and I think that's true. But maybe it's something I can share eventually with the Earth, how to do God's way of healing. Yeah, it's different. There's a method that was around in the 1st century, a little bit after I was executed, but it was around for a short time. Yeah, it's only available to Earth as well too. It's not a spiritual type of healing. It's to do with the physical body, yeah, and soul of course. But it can heal physical body parts.
And it doesn't exist anymore these days.
Oh, the law exists, but people just don't know how the law operates. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, do you remember about that? Or you
not enough to know and do it. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. So, health. Beside health, have you other things that you are passionate about?
No, just building. I think really.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
And of course, about teaching people about God's way and God's laws and how it can benefit their life and the truths about them and how, like, why there's so much pain on earth. It's one of the reasons why we came here for, is to explain all that. But yeah, and that,
which is a big one,
yeah.
Probably the major one, maybe.
Yeah. How they interact with like the other passions of building and healing, I'm not sure exactly, but yeah. My sister once said that to me. She said that I think she was joking. She said my brother's an electrician, and so he deals with energy, and she's a nurse. And she said the middle child's usually a combination between those. Like, you're an energy healer, she said. Yeah, which is quite funny what she said, but anyway, I thought it was. Yeah.
Do you consider yourself to be religious or to be spiritual? Or?
I didn't have a clue what the two of those things were when I was still about late 20s, and then I realised, the lady told me, because she asked me, are you spiritual? And I said, oh yeah, I'm Catholic. And she goes, no, I mean, not religious, she's spiritual. And then I realised, oh yeah, there's a difference between the two. And no to religious. I'm not religious, even though I was brought up as a Catholic sort of environment, but I didn't really follow it much and didn't really get it and had no real interest in it. But spiritual, I'd say yes, yeah. Spiritual is part of what God created. Religion isn't.
How do you define spiritual?
Understanding is it's probably the deeper side of yourself. The more emotional side. It's connected to soul, I believe. Spiritual. Yeah, if you want to learn about yourself, you really learn about the soul. Yeah.
Alright.
It's an everlasting thing, really. Compared to spirit body and physical body.
Yeah, the soul part.
That's the real spirituality, I feel, anyway. Yeah.
How would you describe yourself in terms of attributes and characters, as you know yourself today?
Yeah, that's kind of hard, isn't it? So, like, is my true, what I see as myself isn't really my true self. And it's very similar for other people too. But my soul qualities are quite different than what I display as David Walsh. There's a lot more, most of the David Walsh stuff is fear driven, which I still think is like, which you call yourself, wouldn't you? Who you are, you think you are. Until you know your soul, the way God created you, it's hard to sort of state really what you are, I guess, in some way.
Yeah.
No, I'm persistent. I'm not fastidious, but thorough. I don't know, it's hard to sort of say. It's like there's other feelings I have that I almost say, but they're not how I am now. So, yeah, so I don't really state them either. Yeah, I'll have to give you an answer on that in the future a bit more.
Yes, yes, I understand.
More connected with myself.
Yeah. Well, this whole idea of you being actually a soul that lived in the 1st century, that's just wow. I kind of intellectually feel, why not? I know you a little bit, and I see quite unusual level of kindness, softness, kindness, morality, ethics, attention to detail and things that I don't usually see in other people. And I've met a few of the 14, and there is this kindness that touched me, and if I had to compare, it's only a kind of God's feeling of kindness, of softness, like. And so, well, I would feel, well, maybe, it's right what you say, but what about other people when you tell other people about, well, I'm Cornelius, about how do people react? How does it happen?
I don't usually tell other people. So it doesn't really happen. But if it comes up in a conversation, which is kind of rare, it would. But I'd say this is what I discovered about myself, and often the reaction is, if I've mostly just told family and close friends, the people that know me for the longest time, and I think for them it's probably the hardest to accept or to even contemplate in some way, because they've known me through part of their creation as well too. Like they want me to be who they want me to be, sort of thing. So it makes them not have to question anything as well. And so they're quite resistive to the idea of it. But probably one close friend, I suppose, is the only person that's really, he doesn't really get it, he says, but I sort of like the way you are, and so I don't really understand everything you say, but I still like the way you are, and he still wants to have a friendship with me as well, so which is good. Other people haven't wanted to after that, and yeah.
Just one friend?
Yeah, just one friend. They're from my life as David Walsh growing up and stuff like that. Yeah.
What about your other friends from school?
No, I didn't, because I left. This all just grew apart, I suppose. A lot of times when you are at school, a lot of your friends are really just acquaintances, and how well do we really know each other most of the time? It's a question, isn't it? And and lives go in different directions, and just not really. There's only that guy, my friend. I met him when I was probably, I don't know, 10 or something like that, 10 years of age. So we've been friends for a long time. We never went to the same school or anything, but
Okay. So you kind of didn't keep childhood friends, like I do. I have plenty of childhood friends.
Yeah.
You kind of not have. You took your direction, and so
I think and they took their direction as well. We just sort of lost contact, and so obviously wasn't a whole lot holding the friendship together.
Okay. So so it's kind of more comfortable if you have a lot of friends, and then you discover like you are Cornelius, and
I don't know. No, it's just as difficult, I think, because it's difficult for me too to understand a fair bit too. So, I struggle with it. So like it's often I have a lot of fear about it too. So it's probably when you say about conversations, it's probably a lot of feelings coming from me. It's like internally coming from me saying, don't ask me, don't ask me, don't ask me. And I probably feel a lot of resistance to ask anyway, so I think that's more the truth of pretty much how it goes. So
yes.
Yeah.
Have you seen that constant, or have you seen an evolution in this feeling of I don't want to share who I am? Is that like same these last years, or?
No, it's much the same. I think it's until it's just fear driven, the whole lot of it. It's just a fear of being found. I guess a lot of it reflects back on the first century life, of course. And
yes.
That drives a lot of things, but
Well, I suppose
we'll get to those, I guess.
And I suppose today, after today, it will be a bit more exposed.
That's what I find about a lot of all the 14 are pretty much like that. They don't want any to be noticed, don't want any public attention. They just want to live a quiet life and That's why I feel it's such a gift that you taking the step. Thanks for asking. It's like a bit of
it's
a challenge to come and speak about it.
How was it with your family when you started to have like memories? Or how was it with your family? Do they know who you are really?
Yeah.
And how
well, I've told them, but I don't know if they accept to.
So how did it happen? They kind of judge you, or they kind of say, "Oh, he's crazy," or how did it happen with your family?
I think they like to go down the avenue he's crazy, but they know I'm quite logical, and I've never done anything rash and that sort of stuff before, so that one's a bit hard for them to put on, accept that one. So I think they're quite confused. I don't know why I'm saying it and stuff like that, and Mum, the feeling I get from my mum, she's more resistive to it, because I've often offered times that if you want to know any questions and stuff, or ask any questions, feel free. I know it's quite difficult for them and stuff, and she said doesn't really ask, but Dad does. He asks questions and is a bit more interested in asking, I've been doing any talks lately or anything, and he asks questions in some way like that. We have good questions, or good conversations about God too, which is really fun. Yeah. Well, I found out lots of things about how he feels about God that I never knew before, so which is interesting. Yeah.
What about your siblings?
My brother sat down with him and his wife and told him about it, and he's sort of like a bit more open to the idea, but doesn't really get it in some way too. Yeah. It was interesting too, because they've got children, and when they're sitting there talking to them, usually if they don't want to, the parents don't want to know, the kids come up and distract them and try to pull them away. They want to get out of the conversation, but the kids weren't like that. They just went off and played by themselves. So my sister told her, but she's sort of like doesn't really understand it, but she keeps asking sort of questions in a sly sort of way.
So she has still some interest as well.
I think she just there's not much an interest in what I'm saying as in my identity, but there's interest in what I feel. She has an interest in,
Okay.
As in what I'm saying, my identity. I don't think that's challenging for her to even accept that, but she still listens to, wants to ask questions about stuff, and if she's feeling troubled, sometimes she rings up and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So you would describe your relationship with your childhood family as a honest, respectful relationship?
Not fully. I don't think any family's fully like that, but
no. Respectful? No.
Respectful. Yeah. That I suppose respectful. They respect my will, I respect theirs, sort of thing. It always has been like that for. That's what we learnt or grew up with, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, you have not been overexposing all the stuff. See how it goes when you become more of a public.
You can usually feel from from mum and dad that know and stuff like that, if there's bringing up any conversation like that, you can feel the resistance that they don't want to talk about, so don't oppose their will or don't talk about it.
Okay. Do you sometimes feel very alone and hopeless to ever be believed and understood?
I don't know about others, but for myself, feel alone in myself. for me, accepting. I suppose it's difficult. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, sort of thing. It feels like. Yeah, pretty alone when you like from loss of soulmate and loss of relationship with God. There've been some pretty intense love relationships for the last 2,000 years. So yeah, there's a lot of loss in there, which I've been resisting for a long, long time, but it's starting to come up more recently. You're realising there's just so much sadness in me. I've generated a whole life trying to avoid that and worked out different methods that have been pretty effective, it felt like, until more recently. And yeah, I can't ignore that much longer. So it's just because it's just causing so much pain inside of me, and it causes pain for others as well. Like my reaction and fear and trying to resist people and resist love from others as well. They're very loving towards me, and so it needs just it's coming to a head really.
Yeah. Also, you have there are probably two people who knows who you really are on the planet. Would you say that's a statement of truth?
Yeah, Jesus and Mary.
Jesus and Mary.
They're my true character and nature.
Yeah. Also, they might not remember completely, but
I think they do.
They do more than you.
Yeah, I remember when I think it was at the 2014 assistance group, and I decided to let a bit more of my real character come out. They say that's the real Corny.
What? How was it?
I
don't remember.
Yes,
when you did the talk, you presented
just a little bit more my spontaneous, what they call a flamboyant nature. That's my real nature.
Yes.
I feel that quite often, like this stirring up of, like a building up of the nature wanting to come out, but I stop it.
Yes. So that's in the 2000. If you want to look a bit more how Corny is really, you look in the 2014 assistant group, and he was teaching some part of it, and you
will see. What talk that was.
I remember you show your belly about like
that was another one.
It was all about removing the layer to become your real self.
But it wasn't that one. That was part of it.
That was part of it.
It was the other one. A talk might have been on addictions and relationships or something. Not sure. I can't remember now.
Okay.
Yeah, we did a bit of a dance.
Yes.
So I wonder what my true style of teaching God's way is really, too. Like what my real character, how my real character would teach it. Because every one of the 14 has a different character.
Yes.
So every different, or every soul has different characters. So interesting to see how each one. I think that's quite exciting.
Exactly.
See how each one would present.
Yes. Yeah. Do you expect to be believed and understood by others?
Don't expect it. I mean, it's a pretty, like from the world's view, it's a pretty far-reaching claim in some ways. I don't think really people will accept like who you are until you be who you are, as in it's a soul-based thing, acceptance, or even like it's a soul-to-soul interaction people have, and so they can feel if you're genuine in what you say and what you claim and the way you act and the way you are, how you treat people. So it's more, they'll understand that way, but just mentally they won't know. They might say, oh yes, and then as soon as something comes up, I realise, oh, I hate you. Why did you say that to me? When it wasn't something unloving, it's just something they feel defensive about, which most of us do. I do still. And truth gets exposed and you don't like the feeling of it because you've got your safety built around what you've created or what you think is safe, and then someone tells you the truth about yourself and it feels like it's all being attacked and getting broken down and get all defensive, and then if you're honest about it you end up feeling like, oh yeah, they're right. So like it's just a feeling based thing really, I think. Being accepted or not accepted, it doesn't really, the only person you need to be accepted by is like the acceptance of yourself through understanding how God feels about you. That's who created you in the end, so that's the true nature and true person you are, your true qualities and character. So you can understand or get to understand how God feels about you, and then you'll understand the truth about yourself really. Then you're accepted really. It's the world's going to be judgmental on all sorts of things, aren't they? So you're never going to get satisfaction there from other people.
Do you feel accepted and understood by God?
Oh no, not at all. At the moment, a lot of issues with God at the moment. I thought I was cool with God, but I'm not. A lot about this process. They're coming back, and it feels a bit mean. Like God feels mean to me. Just the way things are and the laws and stuff like that. And they're all wrong, of course, in my perspective. I'll find out in the future, but just right now, got a lot of anger about it.
How do you emotionally, mentally, how do you deal with this threat of being judged or attacked by others all the time? Like for who you are?
Probably by staying absent, as in not letting people know who I am, just by deflecting, not denying, but just trying to avoid the conversations, really, I think. It's my method lately, and it has been. And mentally, I think that's the main issue though too, is it's quite difficult to accept, because there's feelings that happen and they're not cognitive with the life that my mind's lived. If you understand, like there's a physical body and a spirit body together, and they have a mind. The mind is part of the spirit body, brain part of the physical body, but my soul is like 2,000 years old, whereas his body's only like 50 years old. And so there's a big disparity between experiences, whereas yours is your soul, your spirit body, and your physical body are moving together, having experiences and understanding them. Whereas my experiences come up, emotional experiences, which are in the soul, just had 2,000 years of experience. They happen from something that's happened in the now, and I can't understand where it's come from. But it's very real. Yes, it makes it's a bit of a what do you call it? Distressing, I suppose. Just distressing mentally and emotionally, of course, too. And it just gives up the true way. I think it's just to not judge it and just go with it, which I have difficulty with as well. So it feels like you're going a little bit crazy sometimes, like it. But when the emotion wants to let the emotion, whatever it is, overpower, because I want to try and control it generally. Once it does overpower and just end up letting whatever happens, end up having an experience that has memories from back in those times, but it's the real I've ever most felt before in my life. So it's actually feel more real than ever, which makes me feel even more nutso sometimes, because then you think, what's all that about? Like, it doesn't relate to this life, so it becomes quite difficult. But it's the most real I've ever felt in my life. So like,
when you allow the memories,
that's
why,
and it feels you feel connected to yourself at last. And then you slip back up into just your mental capacities again and normal life, and don't feel as connected anymore. But usually the memories aren't that nice, so I guess there's not a great incentive to want to like let them happen. Because the times back then weren't very nice, and the whole life wasn't very nice back then. And it's almost like being on Earth again now triggers it straight away. And being on Earth, it feels like I just want to have a nice life on Earth, nice experience, as in not a violent one, not being attacked all the time or judged and things like that. And I did a lot of attacking in the first century as well, but just want to avoid those things. So it's difficult.
Yeah. Well, I suppose feeling real is an incentive, but all the memory is like pushing you away from one thing to feel. Like.
It's just a matter of which I don't have enough of. It's just faith that's go with what feels right, like what feels right inside yourself. When you feel most connected to yourself, that's got to be right. Well,
I say yes. Just intellectually, I cannot understand what it feels like.
That's right. But I
got. It must be really. So, can you share what is the difference between David Walsh now in this incarnation,
Mm-hmm.
and Cornelius, which is your soul basically.
Mm-hmm.
Cornelius, can you? It seems two different people.
Yeah.
It's hard to understand.
Yeah, David Walsh is a creation of my earthly parents now, really. They've like, because it's a soul, which is the real person, real me and my other half. And when we incarnated, our soul still exists. But I was just comparing it to a first incarnation.
Yeah.
When we let's do it from when you were born, so you know who you are from your experiences.
Yes.
Like your experiences have happened from when you were born. Like you're a soul, you got two soul halves. Your parents had sex, made you. They made a spirit body and a physical body, which you incarnated into with your soul. Then you grew up, had experiences, and it's all growing at the same rate. Whereas our souls like developed for 2,000 years and then incarnated. The soul still developed. But this new body in the mind is all brand new. It's like a baby. It's like an infant, and it's only experience. It's only understanding the experience it's having from that at times it grows from an infant onwards. And that's David Walsh, that creation. But the soul, the real person, because those two things will die. And the physical body, spirit body, eventually there'll be no longer a need for them. So they're not permanent. The soul is. So they're not even the real person. The soul is always the real person, your real character, real traits, your real nature. And so, just trying to think back to your question, the difference between the two.
Yes.
Yeah. So the person, the soul, like my mind wants to believe that David Walsh, the person I've had these experiences with, is the real person. So
Yes.
But the real person is my soul. And that those feelings keep on coming through. If I allow them, like I was saying before, when I allow feelings to come up and allow those feelings to come through, and memories from those experiences, just like if you experience in your life, if you let them to come through, you understand them because you remember them, you remember the smells, you remember the sights, you remember the people that are around you at the time, and they're still around you now. You can even look up history, you can go find photos, and it makes sense to that experience. But for us, having those experiences, it's just totally emotional experience, and it's a bit stressing, so... Yeah, and so eventually, once I allow more and more of my soul to be accepted who I truly am, David Walsh will just disappear. There'll be no I will change. Like I won't be, like I was saying before, my character's not my true character, so that will disappear and become more of my true character. Yeah.
We won't recognize you anymore, probably.
You recognise me as a better person. But, and you'll see changes in a positive way. And I feel trying to hang on to who I think who I am, I want to believe I am, for reasons of trying to avoid emotional experiences from my soul, makes me a worse person. At the moment, I guess it's retrogrades who I am, really. And I don't want to do that either, so like it's sort of stuck between a rock and hard place. Either you don't do it or you do it, you become a better person or you don't. So,
well, your soul does not retrograde.
No.
No.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard. It feels like it to me because it feels like I am retrograding, but the soul in its pristine state won't. No. But it's like an amalgamation. It's trying to amalgamate one into the other so it becomes one again. But at the moment it's quite separate.
Yes.
Yeah. Like our spirit body and our physical body are quite separate from our soul. Yours are growing together. But yours is a process of learning who you are. Like ours is a process of just remembering who we are.
Right.
How God created us. We know how God's created us because we've advanced that far into the spirit world to when the two halves become one again and it becomes one soul.
Okay.
Yeah, yours is like two halves of a soul still, so you're still trying to learn who you are. Partly then you start discovering who is another half of you too, and trying to discover them too.
So that in your spirit body you have only the memory of this life as David Walsh from your childhood.
What's the mind? Yeah, attached to the spirit body. Yeah.
And all your other memories are in your soul.
Yeah, they're feeling ones really. Memories, soul memories. It's memories from this life, of course, but because a lot of times things happen. And I'm trying to discover a feeling happens. I don't know why or what, and so I'm trying to just look at it intellectually, trying to understand where it might have come from. And I don't find it doesn't make any sense. in this life where things have happened, and trying to give an example maybe. I used to have feelings. I was really angry about people that would rape other people. I was just really like on a bandwagon, just wrong and stuff like that. And even past girlfriends, I think I attracted lots of girlfriends, not lots, but a few girlfriends that had been raped prior to a relationship with them, and I was just really angry, and especially when I was younger, like in the teens and stuff, I'd actually wanted to go and find the people that did it, and don't know what I was going to do when that happened. I remember actually one time I was going to find, there's a guy who's quite a bit older than the girl's ex-boyfriend was that raped her in her first experience, and I was thinking he might be at one of these parties I was going to. I remember just taking my mouth guard for a football because I just thought he's going to beat the crap. I wanted to approach him about it, and I thought if we get into a fight, I'm just going to go for it, and then I just wanted to keep my teeth. The silly prospect, but yeah, he wasn't there, which is probably a good thing for me. But
did that make sense? It's so much different from the child who didn't want to fight at all costs.
Yeah, that's too. But I understood later on when I found out about my identity that that's what I'd done a lot in the first century though too. How much I hated rapists and hated that action and stuff like that, and what I'd done, and yeah, and I understood about the fighting too, like about why I was so afraid to be in fights and everything too. There's lots of things like that though. Things I didn't really understand what the feeling is there for, and it's so strong, but it didn't seem to have happened in my life now. Like these feelings have been abused as well. I remember even ringing up my parents and asking them, have I ever been abused? You know, any incidents that might have happened? Because I can remember all of my childhood, like from quite young. So a lot of times when abuse happens, you block out that part of your life, and so that didn't make sense to me either. Like, why do I have these feelings, but I can't remember anything in this life that's happened to me? I didn't know about any other existence. But as I found out about the other existence, that's where a lot of that's happened. So, yeah.
It's hard to understand for us, like who are not reincarnated being, how your soul can be in a pristine soul condition of love, really no injuries, and you reincarnated, and you can have all these injuries from this lifetime. It's hard to understand how these two things can be together at the same time. It's like my mind is just
welcome to our world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's based on memories though too. Like had experiences with 2,000 years worth of experiences, and I only want to believe I've had like 50 years worth of experiences. Yeah, and so like in our life this time, we do things, and it brings up a memory of the experiences we've had in all those other times as well. And whether you accept them or don't accept them, that's a different thing. But when you accept them, a big emotion comes up generally, and you remember. You get all the pictures, you get all the feelings, everything that come with it. Before then, you don't. You just have a feeling of something coming up, but don't know why, how it's related to me, like what's it coming up for.
So does it create a new trauma? You have to feel through, like if. A second time, basically, you already felt about it.
This is
before.
This is one of those things I'm a bit pissed with God about at the moment. It's not like something you don't have to pay a penalty for remembering what's happened. It's just remembering what's happened. That's all. It's not like a new sin. Like remembering, because my life was full of bad things I did in the first century, but I don't have to pay a penalty for any of those. Just remembering that's what happened, what was going on and stuff for me. It's just remembering your past. Yeah, there's no penalty to pay for it, but it feels like it's a penalty.
Feels like
because it feels like it's traumatic. It's like there's a lot of avoidance because of the trauma and re-experiencing that, and I still don't understand. In some way, I get it because like it helps people to like what we come back for. It helps people to realise to go through that process. You need to go through that process and feel, to experience it, to release the trauma.
Yes.
Yeah. So I can understand that when it's a new trauma. Like for people,
same.
Yeah. But for us, it feels like we're just getting punished for it when you're coming back. So It's a bit of anger I got towards God about that still.
Yeah.
So it's not like a wonderful experience in that respect. A lot of people think they'd love to be one of those reincarnated people that don't know what they're thinking, but
I have no idea.
And it's hard to explain it fully though too.
Yeah.
Like you're saying too about a pristine soul, I have difficulty with that too. Like I remember Jesus talking to me once years ago when he just started discovering it, realising he said our souls are still in their location, and I go, oh dude, like I'm having trouble enough just dealing with like identity, let alone I'm somewhere else at the same time.
Yeah, I have a question about that later.
Probably won't be able to answer much of that one.
Oh yeah, it's mind blowing. Yeah, it's mind blowing for you. Imagine for a non-reincarnated person, you're just like, well, it's science fiction.
Well, you've had no time to really. I've had lots of years to contemplate all this too. I suppose, where it's just talking in a conversation. It's not something that you can take on that easy.
Certainly. Have you family at some point wanted you to go to a doctor to see if you are mentally healthy?
I think
they didn't.
I think because they know I am.
Okay.
Yeah. Not trying to hurt anybody, not trying to hurt myself. All those sort of things. People, they seem to get judged as. And also 2 years ago, I did actually go see someone for about a couple of years because I was feeling like I knew something was wrong in my life. I was when I was in my mid-20s and went and saw a person. And I think the reason why I went and saw this person was, I didn't realise at the time, because my mum started dealing with stuff in her life. Started dealing with emotional stuff. And of course, when a parent starts doing it, children naturally start, all this stuff starts coming up. So, I went and saw a lady for years. It was mainly about fear, really, too. I didn't want to have fears that my dad has. I felt they were restricting my life, and this feeling of just major loss. I didn't know what it was about, which is quite weird back then. I didn't understand any of that. So, just a big loss feeling. I couldn't understand what it was from, or where it came from, or because it didn't seem to happen in our life. Like same school, same parents, same everything. But where's the loss in any of that? It was pretty stable, so it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense the whole time, even when I was there for those years, till I found out about identity.
You mean you had all this kind of memory of loss when you were a child? Or also like things that didn't make any sense?
Yeah, I was totally terrified as a kid too. Like always afraid of everything. Afraid of anything big, noisy, scary. Anything. Mum and Dad said they used to always right beside their legs, walking with them as a kid, pretty much. They'd be looking around for me, wondering where I was. I thought I'd gone missing. I was right by their side.
Can you share why you cannot express the fullness of your soul at this moment in time? Like what you really are?
Well, if you define what I really am as what God created me to be, which is what God created my soul to be, and I'm not connected to that. I'm more connected to, or wanting to stay connected to what I believe I am. In other words, what my mind, which is part of the spirit body and physical body. I want to just stay believing that because it keeps me feeling safe. It keeps me safe from the emotional trauma. That might all to access the feelings of my soul, the trueness of my soul. It's going to bring up the memories, which is traumatic for me. So that's why I don't connect fully. Because you've got to connect to what God sees you as, not what you think you are. So I'm a creation of my environment, really. What my mum and dad believed I am, or what my school believed I am, my culture believes I am. You just take on those things to fit in, really, to feel safe in the world. You're really just a product of everything else.
How much of your soul you are expressing right now?
If it was in a percentage form, I'd say 0.0 something. And a little couple of numbers after that.
We have no idea.
No.
Yeah, who you truly are.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same for us, I suppose, but also...
I don't know, you guys might express a bit more of yourself, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you haven't had a whole lot of baggage you probably don't want to deal with and stuff like that, and you've only had small amount of experiences to deal with, so it's not like a huge amount of experiences you have to deal with and memories you have to deal with, so you're quite just new babes, really.
So you have 2,000 years of experience you need to go
that I'm trying to
to
block.
process. Yeah. And we have only 50 years of
Or,
damage.
You've had your current, whatever you've experienced.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it also depends on your environment and your experiences though too, because those are blocked down and shut down. So,
Yes.
So once again, it's the same process, whether it's reincarnated or like first incarnation. You just have to discover how God created you, like what God feels about you, and your character through God's feelings towards you, not through the world's feelings towards you.
Which is the same journey you already did, and you have to remember.
The laws are the same, it operates the same, and I can sort of understand part of our process is a demonstration to others of what they need to do as well.
Okay.
If they want to know themselves and become at one with God. And be happy.
And be happy and be free.
Yeah, and understand why things happen and what's going on in their life, rather than feeling like everything's out of their control and feels like a mystery and feels like everything's bad and
and happen for no reason or
but there's always a reason.
or blame others.
That's right. Even blaming God, but God's made laws, and if you understand the laws, you can make sense of why things happen. It's pretty logical. If you don't know the laws and you feel like it's cruel and mean and unjust.
Are you doing any spiritual practice or rituals or whatever that help you in your journey of...
No, I don't do any rituals. Not spiritual. Nothing like practice or like looking at the clock, got to go and do this or something like that, or a certain thing I've got to do every day. It's just every day is a different day, so different emotions come up. So it's just really, and a lot of times when you wake up from dreams too, that's another experience of just noticing what's happening in the dreams emotionally, and often writing them down too, especially when they feel significant. And so I find in the dreams that when I remember them just lying there, it doesn't help, but when I start writing them down, a lot more starts coming on from the dream, a lot more feelings come up. So that's happens sometimes, but just having everyday experiences, a new experience will come up. Often the emotional experience, and just sit with that and write stuff down about it and try and connect to the experience. Often just trying to write down what I feel. And sometimes I'm writing stuff down, it's not connecting, and I write it down, just burst into tears, so I know that was the truth of it, rather than the other ones just what I believe.
Okay.
Because the truth is always emotional, so you'll find an emotion that comes up.
So do you remember every day your dreams? Is that...
Yeah, a lot of times, Sometimes I remember during the day, I remember dreams from 10, 20 years ago. Sometimes I don't know why they just come up, And often to try and maybe something's happening at the moment that really reminds you of something in that dream that I've got to remember. It's memories, it's just another form of memories.
Would you recommend to write it down?
All the time. Helps you connect. I find it helps me connect to it anyway, rather than just the mind, because your mind can be easily changed by other people or spirits as well. But when you start connecting with your body and your mind, is just another form of connection. It helps you connect more emotionally then.
Are you satisfied about how much you have developed since you were returned? Of your spiritual development?
Quick answer? No.
No.
Not at all.
And can you explain how? Why?
Why? Honouring fear more than faith. Like, just, not wanting to experience emotions that I find difficult to experience. That I mentally want to be in charge of, I suppose. Understand without just experiencing them and then understanding them. That prevents a lot of development, really. The same for a first incarnation person, though, too. And also developing in a relationship with God. God knows who I am, and I have trouble with accepting who I am. So God's going to tell me the truth. So to have a relationship with God, it's going to bring up all those things that cause me, or feels like cause me trauma. So it's prevent a lot of it. and not happy about that. And what's the point? It feels like now, or what's the point of coming back and having all this trauma and not having any benefits to anybody or myself with it? Yeah.
So you feel disappointed?
So far, yeah.
So far, yeah. Are you kind of hard on yourself? Like,
yeah, I think I am most of the time.
Yeah.
Which doesn't help either. You know, Jesus once said to me, he said, "You don't have to do this if you don't want to. Like, God's already rewarding you for coming back. And just wanting to try it and do it. So it's just an experiment, and none of us know how it's going to go. It's never been done before, so we don't understand what's going to happen. Yeah. And of course, when you're in the 36th sphere, in a pristine state, there's no problem ever about anything. I'll give that a shot. Yeah, I want to help these people. Let's try this.
You are caught in your experiment now.
Yeah.
So maybe I had to take another choice.
It's as good as we thought. So far,
Yeah,
it's just resistance to it that it causes all that though.
So Divine Truth teaching are mainly about developing this relationship, personal relationship with God. So your soul has already a relationship with God, but how would you describe your relationship with God now as David Walsh?
Well, David Walsh doesn't have a relationship with God because that's just a spirit body and a physical body, which ends up dying anyway, just like a plant in some way, until it returns back to its form that it came from.
Okay.
So it's the soul that has a relationship with God.
Okay.
Yeah.
And well, the question was not to show that I didn't understand correctly, but it's how do you feel your relationship with God to be right now? Let's say.
Not very good, in a personal way, I guess. I love God's laws and principles. I think they're fascinating, but when it comes down to me personally, I'm angry about them. Really, yeah. I never thought I was. I thought I was cool with them and stuff like that, but I was just deceiving myself. Really, just trying to avoid a whole lot of things I don't want to feel about it. About this process, about this return, about the difficulty of it, and not being able to have the life it feels like I'd want to have. I've just been live quietly out with my soulmate somewhere and have a nice life with her, but it feels like it's going to be full of attention, full of all the things I'm scared of, just about, I suppose, and which are mainly not real things, are things from the first century. It feels like back on Earth again. It's a violent place, and feels like it's going to bring violence back to me again. I had enough of that in the first century, like a life full of it, so I don't want any more of it. Yeah, so it's been a big avoidance of that, but it's just a fear, it's not the truth. But I think it's the truth.
So it feels, as you are now, you don't have a relationship with God, while your soul has a perfect relationship with God. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's my mind that's in control, really. It's like the mind's very powerful in whichever direction you'd like to take it. And it's the mind that's preventing the emotions from coming up. So it's the mind that prevents the emotions, which prevents your relationship with God in the end.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
Beliefs are the false that exist in the mind. And
from this incarnation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wrapped up with memories from the first century life. But it's sort of like when you come back to Earth, it's this place. Imagine if you went to it had some trauma in a place, like say a certain country or something like that. You went on a trip to Spain and you had this big traumatic event. Every time you went back to Spain, you probably had these feelings of trauma or remembering the trauma. And it's a bit like that with Earth. It's coming back to Earth again. Remember the Earth feelings and having a spirit, physical body again. And remember, like all the memories of that experience in the physical body they're around. Even though I don't know what they are most of the time, but they're around because I remember the experiences in the physical body before, of the damage and hurt and everything that was done in that, and so it triggers that memory up. I don't want the emotion to come up from that a lot of the time. And then the memories I have had have been quite traumatic because a lot of the time in my life it was traumatic.
Have you been back to Israel area or something like that?
No, I've been to Europe, but I went to Rome, but I from memory I didn't have any time in Rome. I got quite sick there. That's all I remember when I went back this time. And there's I did actually have some memories. I do remember there's a particular tree in Rome I really liked. I was just really fascinated by it and just loved them. they're called an umbrella tree, I think they are. But they're everywhere in the streets and stuff in there and around that area. And I just just remember them. And the only experience I did have in Rome too was at the Colosseum, where there's people dressed up as centurions and stuff like that, and people take photos with them and stuff, and I was just like scared of them. I remember just thinking, I didn't really understand it because I didn't know anything about my experiences beyond David Walsh, and just I'd take a real wide berth around them, and just there's no way I'm taking a photo of those guys. Yeah, just really freaked out by them. Didn't understand why. It was just a bit odd, but I didn't think much of it and just stayed clear of it. You know, when you have a fear, you just walk away.
You were one of those guys, so basically, yeah.
Well, they're the people that killed me in the end too, my own people. Yeah. So.
But you didn't know at that time when
no,
you were...
No, not at all. No, just noticed my reaction. I thought it was a bit odd, but didn't delve into it because there's nothing to really delve into. Yeah. As far as I knew.
How I understand it is your soul is full of God's love already. So how is it to receive God's love in this incarnation? Can you receive more God's love, or you just remember how you saw the love already in your soul? Or?
I can receive more for sure, but it's just like everybody. God's love is like a shower of rain in some way. Like it's always existing. Except, and that's what Jesus came to teach in the first century, because it wasn't before that as much. It had been shut down, but now God's opened up love to everybody that wants to have it, if they like it. It's just a gift. And it's like having an umbrella over your head. I don't want it, it's just going to run off. If you if the rain, it's almost like as you work, this is an analogy, as you work through on emotions and stuff like that, resistance to why you don't want to have a relationship with God and understand the truth about it. A lot of the times it's because God's being portrayed by religions in a bad way. And why would you want to have a relationship with a tyrant? It's as those emotions and the truth happens, it's like the material on your umbrella starts to dissolve, little bits of rain can fall through. So you can receive some of God's love as you start to receive the truth.
Do you remember some moment where you received more as David in this?
Yeah, I've had only about 2 or 3 experiences when that's happened, and it's, very overwhelming. Of course, a very emotional experience, very lovely experience too. Like as in, it just blows you away. As in, feeling how much love there is coming from God compared to when you feel about Earth. It just feels like the void here, like there's nothing. And what people call love is just almost violence, just about. It's just quite a sharp shock from feeling that compared to what the existence is here on Earth.
Did it come with memories of the first century life at the same time, or?
One experience wasn't, another one. No, it wasn't. That's generally from something else that's happened. It's usually after those experiences, and then the feeling of love comes through, and then it just it makes you so happy you just can't help but laughing sometimes. And I laugh so much that I realise I've never been this happy. Then I cry because you realise you've just never been so happy, and this just feels no nice. Why won't it stay around? And you feel so happy again because it comes through again. Yeah.
It feels crazy when the moment you receive some God's love, it feels like, how can I stay away? It's the best thing, and I stay away all the time.
Well, in that moment, it does seem it is completely illogical, but there's no logic in fear, is there? Too, so it's fear driving these things. Why you want to stay away? Because some fear involved, so it becomes quite illogical to not want to accept some love.
Yes.
From a person or entity that's going to give you true love, proper love, God's version of love.
You say you find entities?
No, I mean it's staying away from love. Like people might want to stay away from love when someone that's hurting them saying, "I'm loving you when I'm doing this." You should want to stay away from that because it doesn't. It's not love.
Sure.
It's just comparing the differences between God's love and what people on earth call love. It's fair enough to want to stay from one away from something that's not loving, but God's love is not like that. It's pure.
How important is your relationship with God now in your life now?
Quasi. As in,
What does that mean?
not very strong, sort of like
Okay.
here, there, sort of like.
Okay.
Fascinated and love God's laws in some way to other things, to pertain to like things that aren't to do with my soul and how it's available, God's love for other people, but it just doesn't feel like it's available to me. It just feels like there's it feels like all I'm here to do is do a duty for God in some way. It feels like, as in, where's the joy in this role? Of course, it's just because I'm resisting it. It's not the truth, but so that's why relationship often is not there. Just resistive because it brings everything else up emotionally that I find difficult mentally, I suppose, to deal with. Even though it feels so real when it happens, as in I feel more real than ever when it does happen, but that creates its own little issue going on. But just I'd say a lack of faith really in God's goodness. Yeah.
It's amazing because your soul must have so much faith, and that leads to another question that I have about faith.
Enough faith to do this experiment, yeah.
Yeah, because in Divine Truth teaching, faith is like the building block. If you have no faith, you won't even try, experiment with it. So it's so important. And so I have a question here about faith. And for some, we start with no faith, like as a new soul, non-reincarnated, we have zero faith in the beginning. But you come back and you have a huge faith. And so my question is, how is faith building for you? How do you still grow your faith, or you need to remember your faith, or how is it?
It's once again like you only build faith through experiences that you've had. Once you have a faith in one direction or another direction, and my faith is in fear at the moment. And most of the world's faith is about fear, or in fear. They're afraid of what's going to happen and stuff, rather than just experiencing it and having the courage, I guess, to know that things are going to be okay. And for me, I guess I have this faith in the feeling that things are not going to be okay. Which is an incorrect faith according to God's laws, but I don't have faith in those laws and those things that pertain to me. Because the experiences, I don't know, I'm just a bit angry about it really. And anger's going to stop the faith happening. Yeah. And it's just a process that I've discovered more recently, that I just need to let myself be honest and truthful about how much angry I am about God about this whole process and then faith might come at some stage after that, but that's blocking the way at the moment.
Yeah. I find it very beautiful and courageous to be able to expose how God's or you feel, or someone feels. It's beautiful.
I almost envy people in the first incarnation where it's far more simple and it's cognitive, everything you're doing. And as far as if you guys are a bit one with God than us, really, from the amount of work we've got to do to understand where we're at and stuff like that, and the barriers we have, and the strength of will to try and stay away from things though too. You don't have as much of that behind you, which is good. So, it's very positive. It could be for you. Don't take my experience as the experience that you could have.
Yeah, and
it's far different. Don't even compare. It's nowhere near. You just can't compare.
And there is this feeling like you guys reincarnated should be at one first, and you do the job, and that's nasty. That's not nice.
No, it's just an expectation of people not wanting to have a shot at having a relationship with God themselves, really, and finding out for their own experiences. Yeah. Because your own experiences are what you'll build faith on, not others. So you can't build any faith from my experience, really. So you've had your own. And you know in your heart what the truth is for yourself.
Yeah, it's fear. It's basically because
you can have you can be inspired by someone else's experience, but you won't necessarily get faith from that experience. The faith's in the heart.
Yeah, you really need to go through your own experience to build faith, and you can be only inspired, but you cannot have. I cannot have your faith.
No,
I know.
It's like some of the feelings I've been going through more recently is like with fear has been huge for me as well, and having a little bit more faith that it's going to be okay to go through it. I don't know where I've come up with that idea lately, but we've just started to do that a bit more, and I keep coming to a barrier of like just about the overwhelm and going into fear, and then some memories come up as in first century memories, and I start to understand why I don't want to do, like as in it's starting to make sense now, like why I had this, I had an experience where I've shut down in the first century, and then exploded with rage and killed someone when I was very young, and it feels like that overwhelmed feeling is going to turn into rage and damage again, but it's not true. It's just what I remember from memories, and because I'm not that way, I'm not in that situation now, so everything's different, but it still feels like that's what's going to happen. If I go into overwhelm, it's going to be bad. It's going to be, because that was one of the worst, probably one I've had of three incidents, I think, in the first century that were really soul destroying. That was probably one of them, and it feels like it's just going to destroy things for me. So
and that's the same for us with our childhood memories. We believe it's going to be true, but it's not the same situation.
No,
that's something similar.
Different.
Yeah,
because you're like for now, like your childhood memories, you were quite small and not in control of your life, not able to walk away, and not even knowing where you could walk to. But now you're an adult, you've got choices, you can make lots of choices, but back then you couldn't. So it's a lot safer for you to experience those feelings now.
And the world is a lot safer now than it used to be, I suppose.
I don't know.
You're not sure about that?
In
in the first century it was pretty unsafe.
I think it's just a little bit more adherence to law now, but back then there wasn't. The same sort of feelings are going around, same sort of things are happening in life and in politics, in religion, the same sort of things are going on everywhere. So people haven't changed in their heart. There hasn't been a heart change. So of course the actions are going to be the same. Just that there's a lot more law to prevent a lot of those things happening these days.
Yes. All right. Yes, that makes sense. That's how the world feels a bit safer, but the heart of the people is not really. Well,
if you took away all the police and stuff like that, that's how you'd really. That's what the world would really be like, really, wouldn't it?
Okay. Yeah. And you feel like that it's not really safer today than it used to be. Yeah. All right.
Not at all.
Okay.
If so, even worse, because there's more spirits also influencing people behind it. There's more. Okay. Mind-altering things like drugs and things going on, and alcohol. Is more options available to people these days.
Oh yeah.
That can get influenced a lot easier. There's more guns and stuff like before. There's only knives. So these days there's lots more things that could do a lot more damage a lot quicker. Nuclear bombs. It just takes one person to kill millions.
Yeah.
The potential's far worse now. That's part of the reason why we came back as well. So,
You feel often alone, but there is a lot of help there for everybody, but certainly for you. So, are you aware that Divine Truth Teaching share that we have all a guardian spirit and a guide, and the guardian spirit is more like about taking care of our physical life and safety, and our guide is more like helping us on our spiritual journey. In love, growing in love. What about you? You must have lots of help. And are you aware, and what is your relationship with your guide or guardian, and how does it work? If you can share some.
Yeah, I think most of my life I felt, I wouldn't call it a presence, but it felt like I didn't know until I found out about guides, because I reflected back on my life after that. There's always been a prompting, I suppose you'd call it, of situations that could be potentially dangerous, to not step into them, make a different decision here.
Yes.
Yeah, just a feeling something's wrong, don't go do that. Or
yes.
Yeah, so I've had that a lot during my life, which I guess is my guardian.
Your guardian, yeah.
And the guide I've got to know a little bit more when I started doing some more dramatic sort of writing, just writing down. I was going to write on my diary, and then all of a sudden feel like, maybe we'll just let the pen go and see what happens. And just wrote stuff down from my guide, So that's the only experiences I've had, really,
So what did you receive, or what?
I don't know, because there's been lots of different ones, but usually things to do with what's going on in my life at the time, blockages, like things that would help me, release those blockages, or things that they should be focusing on, emotionally in particular. Yeah. And the most recent one was to receive help, which you're talking about, because that's what the guides are for. And I hadn't written for years, I don't think, now. Just more recently I started writing, and the guide was very helpful. I'm very happy that I was allowed the writing to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Been in contact again. It's like meeting an old friend, I suppose. And,
do you know who is your guide?
No, I think I'm shut down a little bit to that too, because it's going to bring up a lot of old memories again too. Seems crazy, but yeah.
It's old friends.
Yeah.
That you said. Yeah.
Well, they'd be friends from like long time. Longer than I've had in this life. Yeah. Yeah, I could feel when I was writing though too, like I just said to the guide, I feel like I'm blocking what you want to say. I feel like I'm watering it down. And he said, yeah.
But you're opening to her help a bit, which is
a little bit more recently,
We go back to a bit your work today, what you are doing today, and you have been working for a couple of years now for a non-profit organization called God's Way. And for the sake of the audience, I read just from they have a website. It's blog.godsway.net, and so the vision of God's Way is to provide practical, scientifically proven solutions to the physical, emotional and spiritual problems faced by humankind. How they do that? By developing and gift systems, services and concepts that are effective, efficient, equitable, innovative and sustainable, and which serve not only the needs of humans but also support all other aspects, elements of God's established natural system. By seeking to scientifically prove that God's truth is universal and benefits all of humanity, that God's love is a real substance that can be obtained by any person who desires it, and to show that the systems and creations designed and implemented in harmony with both God's love and truth are not only sustainable but automatically lead to more peace, harmony and joy in all living creatures. So this is quite an exciting and big goal in this organization. Can you explain what is your role in the organization and how you feel you contribute to this vision?
I'm a member of the organisation. So there's a structure that happens in there. There's volunteers underneath that, and then there's nothing actually under that. Probationary volunteer. I'm a probationary member. And my role is usually doing the building stuff, because I love that. So try and look for people who have passions rather than people just coming along to do something. I'd like to try and encourage people in their passions and desires. So that's one of mine. And so I'd like to get onto, at the moment we're just putting a lot of infrastructure in it, which is properties or buildings that are already around, and doing work to them to put them into a way that we need them for our operations. But in the future we'd like to do a lot more experimenting and showing the world Like it's comparing what's things done in God's way compared to what the way man's way, and looking at the benefits and the negatives of both of them, and seeing and putting it like as divine truth teaching is putting them into practice really, yeah, and showing it rather than just talking about them. Yeah.
Can you maybe give an example
of which the work?
Of how you would do things God's way in the building compared to how it's normally done?
I guess so. It's it drills right down into not just the actual work itself, but and one thing you didn't mention about God's way too, it's not all those things are things you do, but it's also the main goal in the organisation is to get people into this condition of having a relationship with God and being able to receive information from God and doing it that way.
Yes.
And understanding the laws and principles and that applying those to everything that's done, but also doing them to yourself though too. So like that's unless you have it in your own heart, then you can't produce that way. So it's a personal journey really. And it's a big part of it is growing yourself in God's love. The people in the organisation growing themselves, and then producing things in God's way.
Okay.
So it's more. That's the main goal really. Yeah. So and then a lot of the stuff we haven't done so much. A lot of things like not making, like for me lately it's been making decisions, my decisions being made from fear rather than from desire, and that causes problems, and then looking at the problems and discovering emotionally what is causing that, and looking at the resistance of why I don't want to hear about it and stuff like that, and looking at fixing up all those issues of people within the organisation, because then it could run a lot better, and that's how God's way works too. It runs with everybody on the same page. If everybody understands God's way, everybody follows God's way, and everything gets done God's way, is very productive. And it's a great business model for the world, like a fantastic one. And the world could be so much more productive than it is. Yeah. Are
you doing other things than buildings as well?
Experiments sometimes, yeah. There's lots of experiments going on all the time, really. Yeah, just, there's lots of different branches as well. People will find that out on the website, from all different endeavours of life though too. From like, there's environmental ones quite strong in God's way, a lot of work's going on in that area. There's the family systems one, like there's what else is there? There's lots of them, technical ones as well, with like computers and stuff like that, and programs that simplify things a lot easier. And everything's done too, built not just for now, which most things get built for. It's now looking at the future and how things can be expanded and just allowing things to grow, which God does too. Like God allows things to grow and expand rather than just be stayed small. It's so wide ranging. It's hard to I've always had trouble trying to explain it because it can't narrow it down to just a few things. But it's just a great way to show the world how the difference between how the world does things in fear and greed and things like that, and power, and compared to God's way, which is all done in love. And for the people involved in that to develop themselves and show it's actually the people that need to change. It's not all the systems, it's not all this other stuff. It's God's way is a system. It's been designed for years, it's forever, and it runs the whole universe. And it runs a harmony. So if we can do the same thing in our lives, in everything we do, then we're going to have great results. Loving results for the world, better results. And the planet won't be in such a mess that it's in.
I understand that volunteers are not just doing one thing, but they learn to do a lot of different things. Not just they work for different branches. So beside construction, have you worked for other branches as well?
Environmental. We try to get a bit of experience in all the branches, because a lot of people have interests in more than one area too. Mine's particularly in building, but it's also in environment. It's also in healing. Haven't done anything on that one yet, but there's lots of different interests. So there's lots of different branches in some way. So
you could open a branch about healing
one day.
One day.
Once I connect more with myself, and I've got a lot of things sort of just in the pipeline about that, but I haven't done anything yet until I connect with it. So,
And you have some experience, I think, also from there in video being behind a camera and filming.
Oh yeah, experiencing that too.
That was helpful here for the setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's lots of things to learn if you want to learn them. Yeah. People a lot of the time come along and want to learn, like as in come along and want to take from the organisation. They don't come along with their gifts. As in, like, I've got a gift of something I've been doing for all my life and I love it, and so I want to give it to the organisation. I was more passionate about doing that than going out and earning money, just doing it on my own, as in typical life. Most people just want to go and earn money, but I wanted to use this gift to better more than just one person. Like when you go and do a building job, it often benefits the person who's paying you or their client sort of thing. That's just one person generally. I want this to benefit the whole world in some way, so I want to give that gift and benefit the world rather than benefiting a small amount of people.
So how do you make a living then? You volunteer, so you're not on a pay base. You're a full-time volunteer. You work not for money, for free. So how do you pay your bills?
We're trying to work it on a donation system, and currently we don't get enough donations personally, or I don't, and some others don't as well, to support our own life, our own living, just costs for living. And so currently the directors are actually paying the volunteers a subsidy that will work full time, just to cover their living costs
from their own pocket.
Which is an amazing gift in itself, isn't it? So, and what the reason why I don't receive enough donations is I haven't worked through my own issues about money. And currently there's still feelings about money. Like someone gives me a gift, it feels like I owe them. It feels like I've got to pay it back, and it's almost like, don't give it to me because I don't want to have to deal with like having to owe you and have to do something for it and feel obliged to it, and so it feels like a menace more than a gift. So there's still, everybody has money issues in the whole world really, and as you work through those money issues, naturally the laws will bring in things, and will even, like some things I have done that I've just got excited about and passionate about, you start getting calls from people, and people start giving you this and helping you with that, and just helps you build your passion. And that's how God's laws work generally.
You mean you experience that?
There's some other things in my life. Just when you're just completely impassioned with it, you start getting help from everywhere.
And you meet with other people with the same passions, and it's really exciting.
But as you work through the money issues too, like in the future, what we would like to do is, like, as we earn enough donations, then we can actually help other people come in and work full-time volunteers. So then everybody, it's almost like working down, as everybody works through their issues, they can now support another lot of people. They can support another lot of people, starts branching out. And teaching what you've learnt to get to where you are. To
end up this first section on this note of God's way, what do you really particularly appreciate in your volunteering for God's way, and what you dislike maybe in your work right now as a volunteer?
I wouldn't say there's anything I dislike, because I wouldn't be there if I was just liking stuff. It's challenging. It's like it challenges you emotionally. There's lots of things come up I don't like inside myself that do come up, and it's difficult. It's not like easy. It's not like a cruisy sort of thing. You just roll up and go do work, like go home like people mostly do. Usually go home with lots of issues going on. But at work, it's difficult if you don't work through them. I know that much. If you're resistant, it's very difficult, and you probably won't be there for very long because it's just not God's way. But I think the benefit of it, what I do like, is that people around you love you, even if you don't really feel it sometimes when things come up that's hard. But they're trying to help you be a better person. And how often is that helping in a business? It's usually people trying to keep you down where you are. There's not often people trying to help with all your issues in your life to be happier. So how can that, it's a great thing. But it is difficult. I'm not going to give any lies. It's really difficult.
It's kind of designed to challenge
it is,
people.
Well, it challenges all the issues you have that are out of harmony with love. So, and generally we want to hold on to those, as we think that's who we are, or they provide some false safety that we think we have, and the organisation doesn't do it that way, and God doesn't do it that way. It's just doing things in line with how God treats us. Wants to look after us and wants us to be happy. Trying to remove all the things that make us unhappy.
Yeah.
It helps the organisation run smoother with less people, ironically. Well, it's not that ironic, but when there's more people coming there that just want to take from the organisation and don't want to give or become really resistive, it makes things harder trying to supervise them and stuff like that. You have to keep an eye on them, you know they're not going to do the right thing. And whereas when they're not there and there's people, everybody on the same page wants to do the right thing, then things go really smooth. It's a real work in progress for everybody, especially for me. And it is difficult if you choose to be resistive. It's very difficult.
And most people are resistive.
Yeah. I have been a lot too, and I'm learning a lot from it though too, and how it harms others and hurts others and makes it difficult for others.
How long have you been working there now?
Since not long after I started, 2 years, maybe a bit more.
All right.
We're looking forward to getting onto projects that actually we can create stuff. Where at the moment we're just kind of like fixing up other people's errors from stuff we've got. So just looking so much forward to just doing something creative.
The most fun is coming. It's up front.